I will just move you guys up here so I can see you as well. All right. So, thank you for showing up, and my name is Jasper Steinhausen. I'm the founder of Business with Impact. My specialty is how do you really connect sustainability and business so we can maximize the revenue of the company, but without breaking the planet and without compromising our values in terms of what we like and what we see as the way we need to address and run a business. So I've been doing that for many, many years by now. Worked with almost 150 companies by now, helped more than 10,000 people wrap their head around this combination between sustainability and business and how you get that in a better way. Train something like 300 to 500 leaders a year in this space. And then a couple of years ago, I published this international best-selling book called Making Sustainability Profitable. Actually just started writing the follow-up book that hopefully should be, if everything goes as planned, will hit the shelves late in the year, around November or so. Yeah, so that's sort of the brief version of me. And what we put up for today is how you, as a sustainability leader, can grow your influence. Because this is really the starting position or situation for a lot of people. I say, especially in positions like you, Serena. So your organization has sustainability goals. Your executives talk about them, at least at special occasions, speeches and stuff. Your job description gives you the responsibility in this area. You have the suggestions about what should next steps be. You're also painfully aware of the need for action because you follow along, obviously, and know the state of the world. Where are we heading in terms of climate, biodiversity, all of that? And you're so ready to act. But besides all of that, or despite all of that, sorry, your team does not match your job description. So the responsibility put up on you and to deliver on the goals does not match your budget or your team. Very often, you don't feel like your influence matches that of your peer leaders. So look at an org chart and you will see that you are situated at the same level as head of sales, head of manufacturing, head of production, head of sale, marketing, and so on and so on, whatever sort of titles you have. So it doesn't really match the others. Top management keeps postponing or downplaying suggestions. And a lot of you, I'm not saying it's per se exactly like you are, but you feel like you spend more time on numbers and reporting than actually making a difference. And that is frustrating, demotivating, and draining. So this is what I hear a lot of times. So I'm curious to know if you recognize this picture. And Bane, welcome to you as well. So do you recognize this? You can just put it in the chat. Is this sort of resembling your world, or are you in a better place where you're lucky enough to not face constraints like this? If you can just put it in the chat, it would be great, just so I know if we are on the same page. Or you can unmute and say yes or no if if you like. Since it's just a small group, we can definitely do it. So does this resonate? Is this kind of resembling? Yes, it does. It says okay. Great. And Ban, I'm not sure what you do. Yes, as well. Great. Ban, by the way, where are you in the world? If you could type that in as well. So we have Valentina from the UK and Serena from Malaysia, and myself is in Denmark, Copenhagen. Um, so so great. You recognize the picture. That's good. The thing is, you're absolutely not alone, which is not good because this is the majority of it. So I have literally met thousands of sustainability leaders with this problem. But the good news is that I've also helped several of them to regain their confidence, to get more influence and more recognition, and therefore also to be able to create more impact. So an example is a company I work with. Unfortunately, due to their corporate policies, I cannot display their name, but working with a manager in health, safety, environment, and quality. So the usual combination of all these four soft areas. And by really tuning in and helping him solve business problems while creating impact, what happened is that he moved from literally unknown and reflecting all of the issues that I shared here, to really being recognized by the senior and top management, both in his company and in the parent company, because of all the impact that they created. And that has meant that also the amount of people who are working on this has just went from 1 to 2 people to about 100 across the entire global company, or the group, the entire group. So this can really move the needle if you do this the right way. And the key thing here is really that if you want big impact, and I suppose we all do, you need to solve big existing business problems. So where things often go wrong is that we tend to start with the environmental problem because that's what we know about, what we care about, what we want to see happen. And in reality, most of the times you'll be in a company where it's not a high priority area, meaning that we need to come knocking on the door saying, I know you're super busy achieving this and this and this, and all budget and everything is tied to that, but I'm just asking for whatever amount of money, 500,000 and a year or two of people around me to help do all of this. And that just keep being pushed aside. Whereas if we figure out what is it that is already on their mind, where are budgets allocated, where are headspace allocated, where are key people allocated, and then see, well, what happens if we look at these problems and see how could we help solve them in a way that also makes an impact? Well, then it's a completely different situation because you knock on the door and say, I know you're really busy about this and this and this problem. I have ideas for how to fix it. I just need 500,000 and a couple of people. It's a completely different situation because it means that all of a sudden it's like, oh, we really like to hear what you say because this is what we are spending all our energy on trying to fix. So please come in and tell us your ideas. Doesn't necessarily mean you get them approved, of course, but it does mean that it shifts from being pushed aside to actually being invited in. And the reason for that is really that this is the fundamental approach that it's important that you take to heart. And one of the things that I would like for you to write down and walk away with on the back of this small mini seminar, and it is that impact follows perceived value. Right? So it's really about, and that's just how our brains work. So don't fight against how the brain works because you're going to lose that any day. So whatever we perceive, we humans perceive as valuable at any given time, is what we sort of choose to has that as our priority mechanism. So, just think about yourself. If you start to feel hungry, well, that's on top of your mind and everything you really start to focus on. If you are in love, all you think about is that person, and so on and so on. So when senior managers, for instance, have to cut costs, well, then that's what they perceive as valuable. And if you come around knocking on the door and say, I have suggestions for ways to reduce our climate impact, it's like, yeah, that's also important. And I know we do have a goal and a strategy for it, but I have other more important matters I need to attain to. So, keep being shuffled away. So the key trick here is really to hone in on what is the 3 to 5 biggest problems or biggest priorities in the company, and who's your ideal clients and what's theirs. Knowing that and then saying, well, how could I contribute to solving them? And the thing is that we're actually way better conditioned to contribute with new ideas to ways to solve it than you might think. because management is so used to looking at these problems through their set, their view, their way of viewing the world. And that is mainly tied to the flow of time and the flow of money. Whereas everybody who's been trained in sustainability are very much trained to look at the flow of resources, because impact is tied to use of resources in some way, which means that you generally look at your business in a different way. But the key thing is to train yourself in actually figuring out, how do I solve these important business problems in a way that also generate impact? How can the toolbox of sustainability, circular economy, climate, plastics, whatever is your preferred sort of focus area, how could that be used to solve some of the problems? And let me just give you an example of a couple of areas that most business leaders have on their plate anyway. And what would I do? Where would I start? Where would I be curious for a start, right? So if it's about cutting costs, well, everything related to the use of resources and waste is very, very easy way. And the company I mentioned before, and the guy and how he sort of rose in his influence, this was really the trick, because they were super focused on cutting costs. So we helped them find ways where they were very, very effectively cutting costs with actually simple, small adjustments, which is very often the case, that there is lots and lots of stuff to be harvested that nobody has looked at. So if cutting cost is an issue, focus on waste and waste reduction, but talk about it in a way of, how much money will we save if we start wasting this? Oh, and then by the way, it will also have this impact on our resource use, on our climate emissions, so on and so on. If it's innovation that's top of the agenda, which it also is many places, well, then that's really is about looking at this problem through the flow of resources and say, where is the inconvenience, either for us in the way we produce, for our users at the end, or in transportation, or whatever it is, right? So what if we looked at the problem through the flow of resources and looked at where could we adjust? How could we make a smarter version? How could we make, substitution in materials or ways of design or whatever it is? But when you look at it through that flow of resources, you will spot other things than they normally do, which is why it can be super valuable. If it's engagement, how do we get people to become more engaged in the workplace, or how do we attract better talent, or whatever, anything related to human engagement? Well, then of course we need to look at where is there easy to grasp employee facing impact projects we can do, right? Combined with the right narrative and communication around it that make people proud to be part of it, but in a meaningful way. So, right, so there's thousands of things you could do in your company, but if we need to make sure that your colleagues become proud of working there, well, then we need to have those that are easy to understand and easy to grasp, and that don't change something way down in the engine room that nobody will know. Look at stuff that is really easy to understand. If it's sales, well, then you really need to hone in on what is the top problems that your clients are facing at. So have that customer centric way of thinking. How do we solve that? And what does impact mean for them? The stuff we do, how could it make our clients look better? Is our product a better version than our competitors because of the work we do? And help your salespeople be confident in communicating that stuff, right? So if sales is the focus, well, then again, don't look solely on back end stuff unless that can be translated to value for customers, right? So minimize risk, if that's the key thing. Well, obviously this is perhaps some of the easiest for a lot of you, because then look at supply chain and the reputation part. Look at, if any of you have been engaged in doing a double materiality assessment or anything, you will know, but what's the outside risk to the company in terms of climate change, weather extremes for the supply chain, or reputational damage, or anything like that, and then frame that again, not as an environmental issue, but as a risk issue. So these were just to give you some ideas about what I mean when I say, try to solve some of the problems. And you will probably have that if you look for top three to top five biggest problems, my guess is that a lot of these will actually be there. So that's going to be a starting point for you. So I'd like to hear what kind of questions does this resonate with you, and what kind of questions do you have? And I'll just stop sharing so we can see each other better. There you go. So, anyone who has a question or comment or a problem you're struggling with in some way that you would like to ask. This is where you're supposed to say something. Just in case you don't know. This is where you're supposed to say something.
Oh, if it's okay, I just say one thing, which is, I think it's very well transferable for what I'm going to do as a consultant, and I can see because this is the issues I've been encountering so far from these little businesses and bigger businesses. So yes, it resonates with me.
Perfect. That's great. So how about you, Serena or Banner? I'm not sure what you do, Banner, but Serena has introduced a bit herself in the beginning. So where are you and what do you do?
Yes, I'm in Sweden.
Sweden. Hmm.
Yeah, I can say that I'm still in my early career stage.
Hmm.
I am at the moment I'm doing an internship
Ah,
in a it's a skincare company based in Malmö in southern Sweden.
so just as
We're actually
great.
doing upcycle coffee as our like
Ah,
main ingredients.
interesting.
Yeah, but I am sorry that I was joining late, so
Ah,
I
no
couldn't
worries.
grasp what you have been talking
Hmm.
about in the beginning. But when you said about a question, I haven't really like formulate maybe my question, but I don't know if you have covered like sustainable marketing, if that kind of thing exists,
Hmm.
because
It
maybe I
does.
can share a bit. In my role, I got a chance to meet with quite some startup businesses that actually working on sustainability already in their yeah like their mission, their vision.
Of course.
And my observation is many of these startup it's very difficult for them to scale up.
Yeah.
And one of the thing that I recognize, uh, I don't know really the reason why, but I felt that one of the thing that there is a bit of reluctant to, let's say, doing big production. Like they try to keep the production in like small.
Hmm.
So then it, making the cost, the production cost higher.
Hmm.
And then it's, like, yeah, and then the price is high, and then it's quite challenging to, yeah,
Okay.
like sell.
So is the question around how you market or
Yeah,
how
like if I don't know if you I don't know if you have covered like
no, no,
if
not in
okay,
this one, but I
yeah,
definitely yeah.
maybe if you have yeah like insight about that the problem
Absolutely. So again,
challenge.
in terms of marketing, it's actually back to the same impact follows perceived value. So who is your client and what do they perceive as valuable? So if they are approaching a company like yours that seems to be having sustainability at its very core of what you do,
Mhm.
well, then obviously, you have to come and talk about what is the sustainability side of what you do, but you also have other things that you have priorities, like what is the cost of the product, right? So again, it's like if we want to position ourselves as the best choice for a company like you or for your product towards your clients, right? Which I guess is you're a B2C company, right? So you could probably market to somebody with a mindset and an understanding around sustainability like me, without probably not marketing your specific product to me, but you could, or my wife or something, whatever gender you're on. But so we would definitely need that, but we have other things that we prioritize as well, right? In terms of quality, price, delivery, time, all of that. So what are the changes you are making? So again, understand what the problems is that your ideal clients have, and then rather than just say, hey, this is green, right? Say, okay, because we've been doing this, we've been capable of, right? So a simple choice, a simple example everybody can understand, I think. I saw a waste collector truck in a larger city, where the entire banner on the side says, carbon neutral,
Mm.
which is like, yeah, great, but that's for me kind of like being lazy in the communication, because it's the receiver's job to then figure out that because it's an electrical vehicle, it also makes less noise, it does not pollute locally, and it has a climate impact. But if I'm, 28 years walking around with my stroller and my baby in, I probably care more about air quality and noise than this slightly more abstract carbon emission, right? So if it were with me, I would have, led with less noise, less air pollution, less climate impact, right? So I have to translate for them to understand what's the value of this. And I'm pretty sure they will gain far more credit for reducing noise and pollution. And then it's great also that we do something in the long term picture about what type of world is this child going to grow up in, right? So we need to do that work of translating, and it's the same whether that's for clients or internally getting peers or C-suite to accept stuff, or supply chain getting partners to actually want to kick in and help. So you need to find out what is the top problem you are facing and you want to contribute to solving, and then you can use sustainability, circular economy, whatever, as the toolbox. And then on the back of that, saying, okay, what is the new and better version that I've created? And therefore, this is smarter. And then, oh, by the way, it's also really good for climate, for whatever, right? And then you need to figure out what's the order of it again compared to your target market. So if it's super sustainable, cautious people, well, then of course this is a version that is good, very good for climate, but it also has this and this and this, right? Depending again on your target market. So yeah. So Serena, do you have a question that you would like to throw at us?
Yeah, perhaps I'd like to share. I understand where you're getting at, and I'm doing the same as well when I pitch the job. I think my only challenge is that it is where even before I present my proposal or my pitch, it's not about what we can deliver, but it's all about getting the job. That's my challenge, where every other consultant is also undercutting their prices just to get the job.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, the deliverables is to understand what the client is looking at, and what basically is first, like what you say, understand what do they want, what's their objective, and how can we help them, assist them. I think basically all the consultants know that would be the what to do, and what in order to get the job they will undercut the price. So that's my challenge. So yeah,
So you are a
so
consultant as well, or what? I thought you were,
yes, I
understood,
am.
okay, I understood it as you were inside the company. Okay. So in the consultant space, uh, I would actually disagree when you say most know what to do, because
Oh,
sustainability
okay.
consultants are so focused on solving the sustainability problem. And
Oh,
my key
okay.
point is you need to be more concerned about solving business problems in a way that also generates impact, right? Because the
Mm.
money and the
Cost savings.
approvals flow
Mm.
on the back of the top priority problems. And in most businesses, sustainability is unfortunately not a top priority problem,
Yeah,
right?
agree,
So
agree.
if you try to solve a sustainability problem and pitch that, you're basically solving a low priority problem for them. It's somewhere in the area of nice to have, right?
Mm.
Because it will mean their head if they don't meet the cost cutting target, but it will not mean their head if they don't reach the 2030 or 2035 or 2040 or 20 whatever carbon emission target,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So we need to come back to this main thing about saying if you want big impact, solve big existing business problems, right?
Mm.
And it did not say if you want big impact, try to solve big sustainability problems, right? It
Mm.
deliberately did not
Agree.
say that, because if that were enough, we wouldn't have this conversation. But it's not, right? So you
Okay.
need to focus in and really train yourself in that connection. So when I sit down with a company leader, very, very early in that conversation, I start talking about what is your top problems in the business right now? What are you struggling with?
Okay.
What keeps you up at night? What do you have to succeed with in the next 6 to 12, 18 months? And then they start telling me, for instance, like I need to cut cost or I have problem attracting talent or whatever it is. And then it's okay, great. If that's the problem, I think this and this and this is something we could do. Would that be interesting if we could fix this problem? And by the way, at the same time, do something on your impact side. So I'm sure, you also have target on that, right? Yeah, I do. Okay, great. Well, so that's the order of things, right? Unless you're sitting down with a very sustainability mature company, could be where you are working, Bane, that it's a top priority. Well, then you might, to get the foot in the door, it might be like, well, I can help you sustain and underpin and create credibility for your sustainability brand because I have the solution of this component or packaging or whatever it is that is just top notch from a sustainability point of view. But that aside, let me assure you, we got that covered. But what is it that you're struggling with actually? Okay, well, for us, it's sales, or it's getting the price low enough to actually compete against less sustainable markets and stuff. Okay, interesting. Well, what we can offer you is, right, because we've been working at this, we've been able to cut costs so much that now we can offer this at a completely different price or whatever it is. Not knowing what it is you're up against, right? But it's just take to heart that, be wary of projecting your own sustainability values onto your clients, because it's so easy to think, well, how can anybody not think we should fix these problems? Can't you see where the world is heading? Yeah, they can. And they might agree on a private values level. But the thing is, they cannot connect the dots between doing this in their private life, in their professional life, and their professional life. Well, they're facing a world where that is increasingly complex, increasing level of competition, increasing need for innovation, increasing problems with employees engagement, and so on and so on. And that's what the board is telling them that they need to fix, right? So that's the high priority. That's the perceived value. Perceived value is help me fix these problems. It's less valuable, perceived less valuable to help me fix a climate problem. That is something I need to, cover at some point. And I would really like to cover them, but the others is not what I would like. It's an absolute must, right? So it's the difference between being a nice to have and a need to have. And it sucks to be nice to have. To make yourself a need by solving what is top priority. That's really what makes the difference.
Okay, just for your knowledge, as far as Malaysian market, stock market requirement is concerned, that it has imposed on the public listed companies in Malaysia, there's a requirement for the listed companies to, and they are mandatory, to apply, to basically report sustainability. Okay,
Yes.
so a lot of public listed companies in Malaysian environment, they are just doing this for compliance purposes and no more than that. So whenever I try to explain that, if, in terms of services, you will be able to do this, things like that. To them, it's like additional cost.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
they just tell me, Serene,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't want more, I don't want less. Just do enough. That's it. So
Yep.
that is something that a lot of the entrepreneurs or the bosses, the listed company bosses, that's how the mentality is. So I'm not sure about Europe.
It's the
And I'm
same.
not sure
It's
about.
exactly the same.
It's the
And we
same.
have,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and we have in the European Union something called CSRD, that is a corporate
Yes,
directive
CSRD.
for, yeah, it's the same. And for me, it's like, well, okay, so you need, if you're looking at a company that size that has such a demand, I would probably lead like, well, why don't we try to make this a business driver than just a cost? And that alone would be like, oh, that's a completely different narrative. And nobody ever talked about that before. How on earth should that be possible? And then you segue into what is the business problems you're facing? And then you look at, okay, so rather than just being this a compliance exercise, right? The report is a byproduct of the actual work. So let's look at when you fine comb your industry anyway, because you need to report on data on here, this, that, and the other. Well, that's going to give you a lot of insights that you can choose, but very few people do that. But so, we have all this data now because we're having to report. And because it's a compliance exercise, they find people in the organization or hire outside people, maybe like you, to do it. So you have a compliance task. So you hire compliance people, and the task becomes making sure that all 500 lines of data you need to fill, areas you need to fill out on, are filled out, right? And that's it. And because C-suite don't like it and don't get it, for them it's just a costly exercise. So nobody ever looks at the results. So the result, the end goal becomes to be able to say we have done it and have some sort of report. So they are completely missing the opportunity to learn anything from all these data. And there are endless opportunity to improve companies based on this insight that you gain, but nobody's looking at it through that perspective, right? So for the environmental people, they look for impact and talk about impact, which is, again, in C-suite is just another cost. So to them, it's like, well, okay, I already spent money on making the report. Now you want me to spend more money on fixing something that is great for future. But, don't you get it? I'm trying to cut cost over here, right? It's the whole exercise right now. So if we don't reframe and it's like, hey, now we got all this insight, what we realize is that we are wasting millions over here. I have an idea about how we could fix that, help you cut cost. And oh, by the way, actually also do something meaningful for climate. That's very interesting. It's the exact same thing. But if you don't connect the dots for them, they are not able to do it. So if you're not able to do it, nobody does, and it becomes a no. It's actually that simple.
Okay. I get it.
All right.
Okay.
We run a bit over time. I hope it's okay with you guys. But I hope this give you some insights and ideas about how you could move forward, and hopefully push more to the world out there, and go out and find ways to create business value in a way that also generates impact. Because when you do that, there's very little limits to what you can do.
Yeah, very helpful. Yeah, thank you very much.
You're
Yes.
welcome. Enjoy your day out there, or well, for you it's very much afternoon, but for some of you, enjoy the day,
Thank you.
and I'll see you around.